Anna's stomach growled. It was a quiet sound, but in the silence between her mother's footsteps, it felt loud as thunder. Today was supposed to be special. Today was her 6th birthday. But there would be no cake, no balloons, no singing friends gathered around a table covered with presents. Anna knew this. She had known it for weeks. Her mother, Diana, had explained it gently one night while they sat on a thin mattress they shared in the shelter. "Sometimes, sweetheart," Diana had whispered, brushing Anna's dark curls away from her face. "Life gets hard, but hard times don't last forever. I promise." Anna had nodded. She was a smart girl. She understood more than most children her age. She understood that Mama used to wear fancy suits and carry a briefcase. She understood that something bad had happened, something Mama didn't like to talk about. She understood that now they lived in a place with bunk beds and strangers, and that Mama's hands, once soft, were now rough from cleaning jobs. But today, Mama had smiled. A real smile. "I have a surprise for you, birthday girl." Diana had said that morning, her eyes bright with determination. "We're going somewhere special." That somewhere special was Golden Pastry, a beautiful bakery by the ocean. Through the wide glass windows, Anna could see rows and rows of treats. Chocolate croissants glistening with sugar, cream puffs topped with strawberries, golden cookies shaped like stars. Anna's mouth watered. She pressed her nose against the glass. "Come on, baby," Diana said softly, taking her hand. They walked inside. The bakery smelled like heaven, like butter and vanilla and fresh bread. Customers in expensive clothes stood in line, chatting on their phones, barely looking at the person in front of them. Behind the counter stood a man with slick back hair and a sharp uniform. His name tag read, "Roberto, manager." Diana approached the counter, holding Anna's hand tightly. She stood up straight, shoulders back. Even in her worn jacket and faded jeans, she carried herself with quiet dignity. "Excuse me," Diana said politely. "I was wondering, do you have any pastries from yesterday? Anything that's expired but still good? I'd be happy to take them off your hands. It's my daughter's birthday." Roberto looked up. His eyes swept over Diana, taking in her shabby clothes, her tired face, the way her shoes were held together with tape. His lip curled into a sneer. "We don't give charity to beggars," he said loudly. Several customers turned to look. This is a respectable establishment. Diana's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice calm. "I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking about expired goods. By law, you're supposed to." "By law." Roberto laughed, a cruel sound. "Listen, lady, I don't care what you think the law says. You're making my customers uncomfortable. Look at you. You probably haven't showered in days. This is a place for people with money, not people looking for handouts." Anna felt her mother's hand tremble. She looked up and saw something she'd never seen before. Tears forming in Mama's eyes. Mama never cried. "Please," Diana said, her voice quieter now. "Just something small. Anything. For my daughter." Roberto leaned forward, his face twisted with disgust. "Your daughter? What kind of mother can't even afford to feed her kid? Maybe you should have thought about that before." "That's enough." The voice came from a corner table. Everyone turned. A man stood up. He was tall, with gray hair at his temples and kind eyes. He wore an expensive suit, but he moved toward them with surprising gentleness. There was something powerful about him, something that made Roberto's sneer falter. "I said that's enough," the man repeated. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried authority. "This woman came here with a simple request. A legal request, if I'm not mistaken. And you responded with cruelty." Roberto's face went red. "Sir, I don't know who you think you are, but—" "I know exactly who I am," the man said quietly. "The question is, do you?" Diana stood frozen. Anna clutched her mother's hand, confused and scared. The bakery had gone completely silent. The man turned to Diana. "Ma'am, I apologize for what you just experienced. No one deserves to be treated this way." He pulled out his wallet and handed Diana several bills. "Please, take your daughter somewhere she'll be treated with respect, somewhere worthy of her birthday." Diana stared at the money. For a moment, Anna thought she might refuse. Pride flickered across her mother's face, that same pride that had once made her fearless in courtrooms, commanding respect from judges and juries. But then Mama looked down at Anna, at her thin arms, her hopeful eyes, her birthday wish hanging in the air like a fragile thing. "Thank you," Diana whispered, taking the money. Her voice cracked. "Thank you." As they turned to leave, Anna heard the man speak again, this time to Roberto. "I'll be in touch," he said quietly. "You can count on that." Outside, the ocean breeze hit Anna's face. She looked up at her mother, who was walking quickly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Nana," Anna said. "Are you okay?" Diana stopped. She knelt down and pulled Anna into a fierce hug. "Yes, baby," she whispered. "But I promise you something right now. That man in there? He thinks he won. He thinks he broke us." She pulled back, and Anna saw something new in her mother's eyes. Something sharp and determined. Something dangerous. He has no idea who he just messed with. Anna didn't understand. Not yet, but she would. The cafe was small and quiet, tucked away from the busy streets. Diana sat at a corner table, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. Anna was at the shelter with Mrs. Patterson, the kind volunteer who sometimes watched the children. Diana stared at the coffee, her mind racing. She kept replaying the scene at Golden Pastry. Roberto's sneering face, the customers looking away, Anna's small hand trembling in hers. But most of all, she remembered the stranger, the man in the expensive suit who had stepped in. She had spent the rest of yesterday expecting nothing more, a kind gesture from a rich man who would forget about them by dinner time. The world was full of people who helped once and moved on. But this morning, something impossible had happened. A note had been slipped under her door at the shelter. Expensive paper. Elegant handwriting. "Mrs. Santos, I believe we have unfinished business. Café Moreno, 10 a.m. Come alone. G.W." Diana's heart had stopped. That name, Santos. He knew her real name. Not the fake one she'd been using at the shelter. Her actual name. Who was this man? Now, sitting in the cafe, Diana felt a familiar sensation stirring inside her. It was the same feeling she used to get before walking into a courtroom. Alert, ready, dangerous. The cafe door opened. The man from the bakery walked in. Up close, Diana could see the sharp intelligence in his eyes, the careful way he observed everything around him. He sat down across from her, without asking permission. "Diana Santos," he said quietly, "former senior partner at Santos and Associates, specializing in labor law and corporate accountability. You won the Riverside Chemical case 3 years ago, the one everyone said was unwinnable. You made the company pay $27 million to workers they'd poisoned." Diana's blood went cold. "Who are you?" "Gabriel Williams," the man said, extending his hand. "I own the Williams Restaurant Group. 47 locations across the East Coast. You probably haven't heard of us. We prefer to stay out of the news." Diana didn't shake his hand. "What do you want?" "To offer you a partnership," Gabriel said simply, "against Roberto Santos and Golden Pastry." Diana blinked. "Roberto Santos? He's my ex-husband's cousin. I didn't even recognize him yesterday. I haven't seen him in years, not since the divorce." Gabriel nodded slowly. "That explains some things. But here's what you don't know, Mrs. Santos. I wasn't at Golden Pastry by accident yesterday. I've been investigating them for months. Health violations, labor law violations, a pattern of discriminating against customers who don't look wealthy enough." He pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table. Diana saw photos, documents, health inspection reports with violations circled in red, timesheets showing employees working without breaks, price tags that didn't match the law. "How did you get all this?" Diana whispered. "I have my methods," Gabriel said. "But here's the problem. I have evidence, but I need someone who knows how to weaponize it. Someone who understands the law inside and out. Someone who's not afraid to fight." He leaned forward. "Yesterday I watched you. Even when Roberto humiliated you, you stayed calm. You knew your rights. You mentioned the law about expired goods. Most people don't know that regulation exists. And when you looked at him, just before you left, Gabriel smiled slightly. I saw something in your eyes, something that told me you weren't finished with him. Diana's hands tightened around her coffee cup. I lost everything, she said quietly. My law practice, my marriage, my home. I ended up in a shelter with my daughter because I trusted the wrong people, because I fought the wrong fight at the wrong time. She looked up, her eyes hard. Why would I risk what little I have left? Because you're not meant to be in a shelter, Gabriel said firmly. You're meant to be in a courtroom. And because this isn't just about Roberto anymore. It's about every person like you who's been treated as less than human. Every worker who's been exploited. Every customer who's been turned away because they didn't look rich enough. Before Diana could respond, the cafe door opened again. A young man walked in, mid-30s, carrying a camera bag, with the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too much. Right on time, Gabriel said, Diana Santos, meet Lucas Rodriguez, investigative journalist for the East Coast Tribune. Lucas sat down and pulled out a recorder. Mrs. Santos, I've been following Williams Restaurant Group's investigation into Golden Pastry. What happened to you yesterday? That wasn't random. Roberto has done this before, many times. But people like you, people without resources, they don't usually fight back. He looked at her intently. Will you fight back? Diana felt something crack open inside her chest. It was fear, yes, but it was also something else. Something she thought she'd lost forever. It was power. Tell me the plan, she said. Gabriel smiled. First, you go back to Golden Pastry. Tomorrow, you make another simple request. Something completely legal. And this time, Lucas will be there undercover, filming everything. We need Roberto on camera, showing his true nature. Then, Lucas added, I published a story, but not just about you, about everyone Roberto's hurt. I've been interviewing former employees for weeks. They're ready to talk. And legally? Diana asked, her lawyer mind kicking into gear. That's where you come in, Gabriel said. You file formal complaints with the health department, the labor board, and the Consumer Protection Agency. You know exactly which laws he's breaking because you saw them with your own eyes. And then, he paused. You work for me. Diana stared at him. What? I'm serious. I need someone like you to lead my new ethics and compliance division. Someone who'll visit every one of my restaurants and make sure we're treating people, customers, and workers with dignity. Someone who'll hold us accountable. Gabriel's voice softened. And someone who can rebuild her life. Full salary, benefits, housing assistance. A fresh start for you and Anna. Diana felt tears threatening again, but she blinked them back. Why are you doing this? Gabriel was quiet for a moment. Because 15 years ago, I was Roberto. Not exactly like him, but close enough. I ran a restaurant, and I treated people poorly because I thought success meant being ruthless. Then someone gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. They taught me that real power isn't about crushing people. It's about lifting them up. He met her eyes. Consider this my way of paying it forward. Lucas leaned in. So, Mrs. Santos, are you in? Diana thought about Anna, about the shelter, about Roberto's sneering face, about all the time she'd been told she was worthless, that her best days were behind her. Then she thought about who she used to be, who she still was, underneath the fear and exhaustion. She was Diana Santos. She had brought corporations to their knees. She had fought for justice when no one else would, and she wasn't done yet. I'm in, she said. Let's take him down. The next morning, Diana walked into Golden Pastry with her head held high. She wore the same worn jacket, the same taped-together shoes. But everything else was different. This time, she wasn't broken. This time, she was armed with knowledge, allies, and a plan. Lucas sat at a corner table, his camera hidden in a coffee cup. Two other customers were actually Gabriel's employees, ready to witness everything. And in Diana's pocket was a small recording device, perfectly legal in this state. Roberto stood behind the counter, laughing with a co-worker. He didn't notice Diana at first. "Excuse me," Diana said clearly. Roberto turned. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by disgust. "You again? I told you." "I'd like to see your current health inspection certificate," Diana said calmly. "By state law, it must be displayed in a location visible to customers." "I don't see it." Roberto's face went red. "What? You can't just—" "I'd also like to know why your pastry prices don't match the shelf labels," Diana continued, her voice steady and professional. "That's a violation of consumer protection law, Section 47B. And I'm curious about your employee break policy. The young man who served me last time mentioned he hadn't had a lunch break in 6 hours. That violates Labor Code 72A. Roberto's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Customers were staring now. "Who do you think you are?" "Roberto Esputerev. I'm a consumer exercising my legal rights," Diana said. "And I'm someone who knows the law better than you ever will." Roberto's face twisted with rage. "You're nothing. You're a homeless beggar who has documented 17 separate violations in this establishment," Diana interrupted, "who has contacted the health department, the labor board, and the Consumer Protection Agency, who has witnessed statements from 8 of your former employees describing a pattern of discrimination and illegal labor practices." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to something cold and sharp, "and who is no longer afraid of you." Roberto went pale. "The inspectors will be here in 1 hour," Diana said. "I suggest you start preparing." She turned and walked out, her heart pounding but her steps steady. Outside, Lucas was already on his phone. "It's perfect," he said excitedly. "I got everything. His face when you listed those violations, it's gold." Gabriel appeared from across the street. "Well done, Mrs. Santos. Now we wait." They didn't have to wait long. The story broke 3 days later. Lucas's article appeared on the front page of the Tribune's website. Golden Pastry's rotten core, inside one restaurant's pattern of discrimination and abuse. The article included everything. Roberto's cruelty to Diana, testimonies from former workers who'd been denied breaks, paid under minimum wage, and fired for complaining, photos of health violations, expired food sold at full price, moldy ingredients hidden in the back, rodent droppings near the prep area. But the part that made the story go viral was the video. Lucas had released the footage of Roberto screaming at Diana, calling her worthless, mocking her in front of her daughter on Anna's birthday. Within hours, it had been viewed 2 million times. By the end of the week, Roberto had been fired. Golden Pastry's owner, terrified of lawsuits and bad publicity, announced a complete overhaul of the company. They hired an independent firm to investigate all their locations. But Diana wasn't satisfied with just firing one cruel manager. Working with Gabriel's legal team, she filed formal complaints that resulted in fines totaling $340,000. Half of that money went to the workers Roberto had mistreated. The other half went to community organizations that help homeless families. Roberto tried to find work at other restaurants. But everywhere he applied, employers found Lucas's article, found the video, found the truth about who he really was. He lost everything: his job, his reputation, his future in the industry. Some people said Diana was too harsh, that everyone deserved a second chance. Diana disagreed. Roberto had 1,000 chances, she told Lucas during a follow-up interview. Every time he chose to humiliate someone instead of helping them. Every time he broke the law and got away with it. Every time he crushed someone's dignity for his own amusement. Those were his chances, and he wasted every single one. 3 months later, Diana stood in front of the building that used to be Golden Pastry. It had a new name now: Community Aid Cafe. The new owner, funded by Gabriel's restaurant group, had a simple policy: treat everyone with respect, serve good food at fair prices, hire people who needed second chances, and pay them fairly. And every evening, donate leftover pastries to local shelters. A large banner hung in the window: "Everyone is welcome here." Diana smiled. Inside the cafe, Anna sat at a table doing homework. She wore a new school uniform from the private school she'd just started. Next to her backpack was a case for her new piano. She'd started lessons last week. They had an apartment now. A real one, with 2 bedrooms and a kitchen where Diana cooked dinner every night. Diana had a job she loved, traveling to different Williams Restaurant Group locations, making sure workers were treated right, making sure customers were never turned away because of how they looked. She was rebuilding herself, one day at a time. Gabriel walked over to their table. Ready for staff meeting? Almost, Diana said. She looked at Anna. How's the math homework, sweetheart? Easy, Anna said brightly. Then she looked up at her mother with those wise, 2 old eyes. Mama, that man from the bakery. Roberto, did he learn his lesson? Diana thought about this carefully. I don't know, baby, but that's not really the point. Then what is? Anna asked. Diana knelt down beside her daughter's chair. The point is that when people try to make you feel small, you don't have to stay small. You can stand up. You can fight back. You can change things. She touched Anna's cheek gently. The point is that your voice matters, that you matter, and nobody gets to take that away from you. Anna smiled. Because we're strong? Because we're strong, Diana agreed, and because we don't fight alone. She looked at Gabriel, who nodded. She thought of Lucas, whose article had started a national conversation about discrimination in the service industry. She thought of all the workers who'd found the courage to speak up, the customers who'd share their own stories, the community that had rallied around a simple idea. Everyone deserves dignity. That evening, as Diana tucked Anna into bed in their new home, her daughter asked one more question. Mama, are you happy now? Diana thought about everything that had happened. The pain, the humiliation, the fear, but also the fight, the victory, the transformation. Yes, baby, she whispered. I really am. And it was true, because Diana Santos had learned something powerful. Your worst moment doesn't have to define you. Sometimes, your worst moment is just the beginning of your greatest comeback. Sometimes, when someone tries to break you, you discover you're unbreakable. Sometimes, justice isn't just about punishment. It's about making sure the next person who walks through that door, tired, poor, desperate, gets treated like a human being. That's real power. That's real change. That's what it means to turn pain into purpose. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that dignity is not something anyone can take from you, if it showed you that courage can change the world, then like this story, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to hear more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Because everyone deserves respect. Everyone deserves justice. And everyone's story matters, including yours.